We are so stoked to talk to you today because this morning just thinking about what we're planning, what's going on in our lives, what's happening. It's Thanksgiving weekend, right? And so we're really excited to help you guys or to show maybe some ideas or things that you can do to make this Thanksgiving weekend the best that you can. Especially with COVID going on, it makes us feel like we need to focus on all of the things that we can't have, that are terrible, that we don't like, that are going on right now. But we still have an amazing opportunity right now to really think and focus on those things that we still have. And when you think about the most important thing in your life, it's your family, right? It's your friends, it's relationships. And so focusing on that for this Thanksgiving holiday is going to make it so that you really get the most fulfillment.
Because imagine if you're going to these get-togethers and meeting with people, and however you're meeting, whether it's Zoom or in person or whatever, imagine having a clear goal in mind about why you're doing it. Why do you get together with family? What is it that you want from that?
So this video is to show you or give you some ideas about how you can make this Thanksgiving weekend the best that you can.
Because what really matters to us? What do we really care about? Why is it that these events mean so much to us? Why do we do them? And why do we look forward to them all year? I mean, what really is the purpose? Because we really, that connection that we have with each other and that love that we feel is such a big part of our lives. But what typically happens for you?
Lots of times during this holiday, we get anxious about Thanksgiving, right? We're like, oh, I am going to go out with my family, have this awesome experience, but yet I'm getting anxious about it. So isn't that kind of like the opposite of what you want out of being with your family, right?
And notice how that we're just building up something and we're looking at our past and we're kind of living in our past. We're bringing our past into our present experience. And we're starting to prep our mind to be reactive to what other people do. Have you noticed that? We're prepping ourselves to be reactive to other people.
We're like, oh, Aunt Sally's going to go on talking about this thing that nobody cares about, and everyone's going to have to sit there and listen to her.
Or so-and-so is going to talk about politics, and they're going to try to rope us into all their conversations. And so-and-so, and both of them are going to get in a fight, and dad's going to this, or mom's going to this, and something's going to go wrong, and everyone's going to explode. And how many times have things like that happened in your Thanksgiving?
So it's kind of like you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. You're like, oh, I am doing this activity, I'm going with my family and eating dinner, whatever, but I'm going to be upset about it because I know this is going to happen.
Unless all the planets line up, right? If all the planets line up and everybody changes and acts different, then it will be okay. It'll be fine. And maybe you're actually somebody who has pretty good Thanksgivings and you have a pretty loving and kind experience, and you make memories and you play games and you do some things together. But what if you could take that to another level? What if you could really bring it to another level of accomplishing what you really want and really experiencing that love and connection and those memories at even a higher level? Isn't that kind of what our goal is? Isn't that kind of what we're trying to do?
Because is it really about stuffing yourself silly? Is it really about playing those games and winning at those games, maybe with your family members? It's not about any of that stuff. That stuff is all external. That stuff really doesn't matter to us. And so being able to keep that focus on what truly matters. And we have a couple ways that you can do that.
Because our brains are going to have this, they're going to go into their old patterns. You know, one of the most interesting things for me, and I think that we notice, is that we get back together with family and it's all of a sudden our brain goes back 30, 40 years and starts thinking like it did when we were little kids, with our siblings and our parents and our friends that we had way back then. And it almost feels like we've backtracked and we've gone back to our old patterns because our brain starts to be triggered based off of that history that we have. And so sometimes we act even more childish than we do outside of our normal life with our other friends and our coworkers and our bosses and business partners maybe. And so what do? How do we make sure that this coming Thanksgiving and this coming Christmas, these family get-togethers that we'll be having for the holidays, what do we do to make sure that we really achieve at the highest level what we want for ourselves and for everyone else? How do we become the influencer to that experience?
And how does it feel when you have these gatherings and they don't go the way that you were hoping? that everyone ends up in a fight and people leave early and things just don't go the way that maybe they could go. And how does that feel? I mean, we spent our whole year waiting for these awesome, fun holidays, and then those things happen. This isn't just for Thanksgiving. This isn't just for our family relationships, but all of our relationships. How to have those better relationships or make them the way that you truly want them to be. So this applies in all areas of any kind of relationship that you may have.
So this is a quick little few step methods, and there's a lot more around this that you can learn a lot more by going to our other videos and our site and our Facebook group and learn a little bit more. But we wanted to touch on just a few simple things that you can do. And they're simple, but they have huge outcomes. They have huge effects on what you're doing.
That's why we got so excited thinking about this, thinking about how you can totally transform your Thanksgiving Day or your holiday to something that really lights you up, to something you're enthusiastic about going to. Instead of being like, oh no, we have to have this family thing, but you're like, yes, like I want to do this.
Yeah, so this model that we use is what taught us this. It's called Neuro-Auto-Associative Programming Model. It's the NAAP model. And in this model, one of the key concepts is that our brain runs off of a mechanism of receiving reward. That's every time that our neurons fire in our brain, every time we think something, every time we give meaning to something, every time that we make a decision, it's always because our brain wants reward. It's doing everything to get reward. And those other patterns that we get in are about that reward system. And so what this is to help us to begin to reprogram that reward system, to interrupt and reprogram that reward system. And one of the keys is to being clear about what you want, being clear about the reward that's coming. And so step number one, which is really key, is to ask yourself why you enjoy these kind of get-togethers or why you enjoy your relationships with people.
And maybe if you don't enjoy these get-togethers, if you don't enjoy your relationships with other people, then maybe it's time to rethink that and to think if that's something that you really want. And if it's not, then to really change it. Because if you don't like it, if you don't appreciate those things, then why are you doing them?
Yeah, and maybe it's one of those situations where you've never really enjoyed it very much, right? So here's how you find out what you would enjoy, okay? Take the things that you see and you ask yourself, why do I not enjoy this? Why do I not like doing this? And then take the opposites. If you take the opposites of what you don't like, you'll realize what you would like if your family get-togethers were a certain way. And this focus of asking yourself why is helping yourself get into your own thinking, to understand your own thinking so that you can create a reward system that your brain will have stronger tendency to move towards.
But remember that this isn't about trying to control everybody else and make them do what you want. Make them create the perfect family gathering for you, right? This is about going inside yourself and questioning yourself about things that you can control, about how you're feeling in this situation, or things that really don't pertain to what everyone else is doing. Because you can't make other people do what you want, right?
So step one is to write that list. And if you want to know why you like it, one of the ways is to also analyze what are some of the funnest ones you've had? What are some of the funnest relationships you've had? What are some of the funnest holiday get-togethers you've had? And then ask yourself, why was it fun? What made it fun? What was different? And I'll guarantee a part of it was you. A big part of it was what you were doing up here, what you were doing and what you were thinking and the maps you were using in that situation. So that's step number one. Get clarity about what it is that makes it fun, that makes you like it, that gives you fulfillment. And I guarantee one of those things you're going to find is you get to influence other people. You have this opportunity to influence other people. You want to give and serve and help them. And so getting yourself out of that need to have to do that is really key. And that is what brings us to step two.
So step two is one of my favorite parts because it's thinking about each of those individuals that you're going to be seeing, those people that you care about, those people that you want to show love maybe, those people that really matter to you. Thinking about them and why it is that your relationship is important, right? Why it is that you care about going to this event in the first place. What is it that you can do, right? The action is so important for us to really make a change in our lives. So first off, you can start by writing things down. Writing down what is it that you like about that person. What is it that really makes it so you want to be around them because you're going to an event and you're going to be around them? So what is it that you appreciate about them? What is it that makes it so that you're kind of attracted or drawn to them or want to be around them? and to go into detail about that. I mean, you can take as much time as you want on this little activity or this little homework that we have for you to really dive deep and see what is it in that relationship that you appreciate.
And by the way, the harder this is to do for this person, the bigger impact it's going to have on your maps. You will change who you are. You will change what you're doing up here in the way that will influence people so much more, especially if it's really hard to find things around this person that you really like.
So writing down the what. And then the second part of that, the step 2, is to write down the why. Why is it that that's important to you? Then the second part of this activity is to go into the why. Why is it that that is important to you? Why is it that that matters that this person is in your life? Why is it that you like this thing about them and how it affects your life? And being able to drive that deeper makes a big difference in the meaning, because your focus is going to be completely turned to those things that you truly love or appreciate, or that you are really thankful about that person.
Because there's this interesting concept that we talk about, and it's seek and ye shall find. And in our brain, what we're looking for, we tend to find. So if you've pre-framed yourself with your history to find them doing the same thing that they've always done over and over again, that's what you'll find. But if you write this letter, if you write this down, not necessarily a letter to them, but you write down these things in your mind, that's what you'll start looking for. This is a powerful, incredibly powerful principle. So that kind of puts you in a state of mind of watching for when they are doing those things that you've written. And that brings us to step 3. In step 3, what we do is we watch and look for opportunities to give people these maps of thinking that we've now written on paper, right? Because it's all about remapping how we think. And you can really, help people feel loved and connected when you say, oh, good job, that's great, you're a wonderful person, I sure love you. Those things are one level of connecting and helping and serving someone. But when you go in and you give them new maps of thinking, or you solidify their current maps of thinking that are really useful and helpful and effective, that's a whole different level of being loving and kind. They'll remember you forever. And if they don't necessarily remember you, they'll remember those maps. Have you ever had an experience, maybe when you were young or when you were a kid, where someone who was an authority figure to you, maybe it was your parent, your grandparent, your uncle or aunt, or someone, they said something to you that really made you think about yourself, really made you believe in yourself differently? Because they said something that made sense, right? It had reasoning behind it. In other words, maps of thinking that you adhered to, or you took, or you adopted immediately because of how it felt when they lifted you that way. They made you believe in yourself just by giving you reasoning behind what you're doing. You walk in the room and say, hey, you guys are, especially parents and adults do this all the time, you guys are such a great group of kids. It's not that that's bad, but it can be raised to such a higher level. First of all, it's very general and it's to the whole group. So it doesn't mean a whole lot to the individual. Second,
and if you can raise it to the next level, why not?
Yeah, why not? It's literally like helping them be aware of the maps that they're using that are effective, which in turn amps up the reward system their brain gets for that way of thinking or that behavior, or that thinking behind their behavior. So it builds up who they are. And the key is giving them the reasoning that you've written down on your paper. The why that you wrote down is that reasoning. That's what people need. And they're not getting it very often. And that's why this is so powerful, because it's not very common for them to have someone address them in that way and give them that thing. And then they start to seek for those things that you told them that are true in themselves, right? You start to say, yeah, you did that and you did this. And they see it and now they amp it up, and that's what they want even more of.
Because notice how it feels when someone says, you're super cool. Or someone says, you're way cool because when I saw you the other day, you acted this way to this person. It made them feel super great. So that's why I think you're cool.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a really great example.
Big difference.
And as a parent, you might go to your child and say, you're doing really good work there, right? And maybe they're working on something, maybe it's a school project or something. Wow, you're doing really good work. Now, notice the difference between going and saying, wow, I can tell this is turning out how you expected more because you're putting more and more effort into it. That you're actually working hard and focusing on it and not letting other things bother you. and not letting other things like the kids playing outside or the video games or the show that's on TV getting in your way. See how powerful that is? Isn't that those 3 or 4 main things you want for your child? To not be distracted by those things, but you built in and you showed them how they're already doing it. And they go, yeah, you're right. I did do that. That is me. That does lead to success. That does get me the things I want. It's so powerful.
And they can even take that way deep into who they believe that they are. And how powerful is that? What you believe or who you believe you are is what the driving force of everything that we do. And so if you could put a little piece into who that person is, that will lead the rest of their life, right? Potentially. And being able to be a part of that and to show them what it is that they could be, the potential that they truly have.
And I know some of you are thinking, well, that's not really me. That's not how I roll. That's not how I do things. I don't really go in and try to lift people up and be all flowery and everything like that. Well, you know what? That's a part of you inside that by making a shift, you might feel something that you really, really like. And you might feel like, well, that's going to be uncomfortable. You know what? Taking action on something is the way to make change. That's how to spark real change, real reward in your own brain. Because what you're doing is you're switching the reward in your own brain and you're switching it in their brain, both. It's a double hitter, man. You're getting 2 things at once that are really great. You're changing yourself and who you are to what you want to be, and then you're helping change that other person and influence that other person to be more of what they truly want to be. And it doesn't come across as manipulative because it's all based off of, you're just saying, hey, this is what I noticed. I mean, I don't know if that's really what you get from it, but for me, this is what I see and this is what I notice, right? And we've talked about friend to friend and child to child. What about if it's your parent or your sibling that you're looking at? You know, that's another scenario where you can look at it and say, hey, mom and dad, you know what I really loved about what you did? You know why it meant so much to me? And do you know how it affected my life? And do you know how it affects my marriage and my raising children, all these things? And they just get, I'll tell you, if you're a parent, you know what this feels like. Well, you might not have ever felt it. So maybe you don't, but you can imagine what it would feel like.
So what if you take our advice? What if you go and you take that action? And maybe it doesn't have to be so perfectly written out in this huge long letter or whatever, but really just overviewing it before you get to that event. Maybe just thinking a little bit about the things that we've said. Because what kind of experience would that create if you did that? What if you went into a situation in a room and you just lifted everybody else up? How would that make you feel? Because what is Thanksgiving all about? It's gratitude. Gratitude. I mean, we talk about gratitude all the time, but is there any better way to really implant gratitude into someone else or even into yourself? That when you say that thing about them, how does that make them feel in that moment? Growing somebody else's identity or building upon who they are, what better thing is there for you to be able to do on Thanksgiving Day, on these holidays? I mean, how would it feel for you even? Maybe not focusing so much about how the other person feels about what you do for them, but how you feel inside for what you do for other people and yourself. The feeling of it, the fulfillment that you get out of that. I mean, is it worth it to kind of go out of your comfort zone and to make some deeper compliments about other people that you're around that you already love and care about?
And what better gift could you give at this holiday season than the gift of some of your time and attention, the most valuable thing that you have? And you know that's the case because when people give you their time and attention, and they give you their heart and their authenticity and the real self, and they put themselves out there and maybe take a little risk to try to help you and to give that love and serve you. I mean, what better thing could you give? There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be given this year that in a few months' time are going to end up in the garbage or at the thrift store or somewhere in, with dust collecting on it that really doesn't serve that much. This is a powerful and the most lasting gift that you can give. It literally is. And we have dedicated our lives to understanding and learning how to do this kind of shifting and helping people in their mind to really find a new place, to see this planet as a different place, to see it like Einstein says, one of the most important questions we have to answer is this a friendly or hostile universe? And that is a major key. And notice what you'll feel as you share this with someone, you take the time to do this, and how they'll feel when they receive it. It's the best gift that you can ever experience giving. And they might not know that much of what happened right in that moment. They might not return with a whole bunch of love and kindness with you at that moment. But I'm telling you, this works. This is how our brain works. It sticks. It goes in and it plays in their mind. It truly does. So do it and enjoy it and love it. And there's a lot more to what our brain does and how it works and how to get out of patterns. So if you want to learn more, go on to our other videos. If you want to get this one down, keep watching this one, because sometimes it takes a few times through to really get what we're talking about here. It's kind of some deep stuff. It's a little different than what this world is teaching us.
So we hope that you can take this opportunity, this Thanksgiving season or this Thanksgiving day or these holidays, right, to really take in and consider the things that we've talked about. Consider what difference that could make in your life, because we have done it in our lives and we know that it can. And so if you take that action, if you go out and really make a difference in other people's lives, it will really change your life. So thanks for listening, and we hope that you have an amazing Thanksgiving.
Yes.